applications. Anybody planning to speak this evening? You all planning to speak? Not necessary. Well, I tell you what, just in case, if you'll come up and podium and sign your name, if you will, plan to speak, you'll do that now, and then that way Charlie can swear you in.
I'll bring you bourbon. I'll bring to it for you. Especially after the last several we've had, but luck has not gone forever.
Especially to have nothing come up on. The discoverers like, oh no.
Is that on or off? That's on, right? That's on. Doesn't mean anybody's home. All right, and if you are planning to speak, if you can stand just real quick for me, that way Charlie can swear you in. Just raise your right hand if you will, please. That's okay. We'll swear you in anyway, just in case.
You all swear or affirm the statements you're to make tonight to be the truth to the best of your information and belief. Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and start with the first application, S-2022-25, Lacey McCormick. Oh, we do have to do the minutes first. My apologies. Has everybody had a chance to read over the minutes? We do need to make the one correction on the minutes.
The way I've got that worded is the correction to the vote on the Franklin application, S-2022-24. There was one no vote on the motion to deny.
We'll make a, with that correction, we'll take a motion to approve or deny the minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for the meeting of May 5th, 2022.
Sonia Barrett makes the motion.
I'll second.
Janet Holland seconds the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. There are none. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to the first application.
This is application S-2022-25, which is a variance application to the side yard setback from 50 feet to 38.5 feet for an existing primary residence and 50 feet to 10 feet for an existing accessory structure in order to subdivide the property into two tracts located at 1435 and 1441 Indian Creek Road. It's have been assigned to addresses by the office and is for when they had an approval previously. I'm going to get into that in a second. The property is 65 acres. With this subdivision, which later subsequent subdivision, the property at 1435 would be 53.34 acres, and the property at 1441 would be 11.66 acres. Staff recommends denial of this application. We recently heard this application in September. They requested a conditional use permit for the secondary dwelling, and it would be on the portion of the property that would be addressed 1435. They've now returned and are requesting the variance in order to place the property lines where they requested it, and that puts the existing structures in a non-compliant spot, and so they're required to return to the Board of Adjustment for a variance application, for a variance to that placement. So the aerial side of the property is off of Indian Creek Road. When reviewing, when reviewing applications for variances, we refer to KRS 100.243, which lists explicit findings that evidence must be found from the board in favor or against the the application. The first of which is that the requested variance arises from special circumstances that did not apply to the area in the general vicinity. The second of which is that the strict application of the provisions and regulations would deprive the applicant of reasonable use of land or create an unnecessary hardship. And the third of which is that the circumstances are the result of actions of the applicant taken subsequent to the adoption of zoning regulations from which the relief is now being sought. If there's any evidence of willful violations, then we can't consider an application of the variance. We also consider if the variance does not negatively impact public health, safety, or welfare, and or alter character of the general vicinity. This is the shot from the applicant. It is in the staff packet as well as I have it on the board here. This is the requested property line placement. The property will have some road frontage, about 210 feet of road frontage off of Indian Creek Road before it follows the existing driveway to the property that then hooks around the existing residence. The property lines would split the driveway in half, and that would make a 25-foot wide access easement with 12 feet on one side and 12 feet on the other, and this is how staff has interpreted the layout. And then it goes back to the rear of the property, kind of extending up the north and the side of the property, so it kind of makes a Nike swish, which is how I kind of bring it to my, when I was thinking about it. It kind of like hook shots it and then tapers at the end. So this is a kind of imposed, a rough estimate of what that property line would look like. Unfortunately, the orange is kind of hard to tell, but you can see it, the line's on the existing driveway and then it comes back and then it shoots back straight. The orange box is the proposed placement as depicted on the plat. It would be a mobile home. It is listed as proposed on the plat, and there's no existing residence on that site right now. It is that portion of the site. And then the two blue arrows are the two structures that would be offending with those property lines there. All agriculturally zoned properties follow the same regulations. It's not a unique property. It exceeds the minimum lot size and complies with setback and frontage requirements. There's not a significant topographical range in that property, with some of the rearmost property having a pretty notable range. The majority of the front is flatter land and surface. However, because of that range and the size of the property, staff determines that you could build really anywhere on this property, just kind of subject to personal preference or choice and cost. Neighboring properties are able to satisfy the properties to the fullest extent of the zoning ordinance, and while also satisfying the requirements for subdivision of their properties should they request it. As we've seen in the past, and I'm sure you've seen maps before, some of these lots that we've seen in the county are pretty crazy looking. We have some dumbbells and flag lots, and we do allow for flag lots while Woodford and other counties don't permit small amount of road frontage with a strip back along the driveway, and then the expansion to the flag, that's the name, as well as landlocked properties with a designated access and utilities easement on this property. For instances, otherwise we just want to make sure that we're not creating an island, and it can be applied in pretty much any situation as long as we have the appropriate density frontage or density requirements, where it's 5 acres for every single newly created lot. Relocation of the property lines would satisfy these regulations and allow for reasonable use of property without additional hardship. We're able to place the property. They have enough land. It's not a binding placement that you can have it in our ordinances and practices to allow for really any shape of lot. I've seen some real circular looking ones. I've seen some long C2s. And so it really ranges across the board. And so any type of decision, at least on staff's opinion, is kind of, you can really do what you want with it. So why create a structure or a line that would create a non-compliance where one isn't really necessary to be created? If you had a narrow lot where it was 10 acres and you had to make something like this, there would be additional considerations. But because this is entirely proposed and there's enough acreage to satisfy density requirements, and we don't have a standard or restriction or requirement for minimum road frontage, staff does find that this doesn't meet the findings requirement and therefore should be denied. Should the board find evidence that the application should be approved in light of staff recommendation, I've included 3 conditions on the board. There are 3 ones that we associate with conditions of approval with variance applications: that they comply with local regulations related to our office, that they apply to local, federal, and other outstanding regulations, and that they obtain a building permit for any construction on the site. Go back to the picture of it. So that's all I have.
Any questions for Elise from the board? Okay, is the applicant here? Would you like to come up and speak if you need to, or?
Here you'll see that I've tried to utilize the driveway that is already there so that I don't have to put in a new driveway. Putting in a new driveway to access the side of the lot that I want my new home to be in would cause me to have to divide my horse lot and refence my horse lot and of course shrink the size of my horse lot. And I feel that that would be undue hardship when there's already a driveway there that I don't have to pay for. I own both sides of it and I don't intend to sell it. So I wanted to go with the easiest route of the driveway that's already there.
Can you bring that other picture back up?
I'm sorry, can you state your name, please, for us?
Lacey McCormick.
This one.
Well, first question, where the barn, where the back part of why does it have to be over, swooping all the way over, coming into that 50-foot setback?
I suppose it doesn't.
I mean, the mobile home could go farther the other way, and then the property line could shift, correct? Is that what you're saying, Elise?
So as you go
One at a time.
around, you see the tree in the backyard.
Yes.
And you can see a faint line of where there used to be more gravel than, or you see less gravel in the satellite image. But that's where I want the driveway to curl around behind the house. And I suppose we could still scoot that over some based on what I see here.
I mean, I could easily be falsely included. But I did the best that we can with our abilities here to try to illustrate what it is. But I will obviously take fault if there's an error in the.
No, I'm just-
Well, it is curious, and I agree with Sonia. There is a room there to move the mobile home back, and I'm not sure what direction that is at this point, but there is room to move it back towards what looks like ATV tracks back farther up that way, and then scoot that property line back over.
So the mobile home site is actually farther back, like where those trees are right now, is where the proposed site of the home is.
So even more so than the property line could shift, correct?
Yes.
Still put it right up against the property line, though. She would still need a variance.
It's still relatively tight there.
But I mean,
But I guess-
but there's no horse lot there. is what
All right,
I'm
my
saying.
question is, why can't the mobile home lot be moved away from the property line more?
And shift the property, because she's not intruding on it.
Right.
It's the old residence.
It's the,
Barn.
for clarification, the variance is for the existing
Right.
structures on that existing.
That's what I'm
lot.
saying, but if we shift the property line farther that way, then that one, we're still doing the 50-foot setback like we do with other houses when we subdivide, correct?
So with that suggestion, just back the property line away from the driveway. Is that what that is?
Well, away from the barn structure. Well, right now, I'm just talking about that part of it, not the other part yet, the house part, but the accessory structure, where you loop around and then you have the back part come up, and that's the one that's making, I guess that's a barn there?
Yes.
So you wanted that one decreased to what, 25 foot on that one, was it?
It's still 50, for clusters it becomes 25.
No, I mean, they're asking for the variance on the
38 and a half.
existing.
Variance is 10 for the accessory structure.
Okay, so,
You can
yeah.
consider a smaller variance if it's still required with the placement as is.
But we could potentially eliminate any variance if we shifted the property line.
And unfortunately, that's what the statute requires you to do.
Right,
Right.
that's what I'm saying.
Eliminate variances.
And I'm just looking at one
There's
step at a time.
preferences. That's-
Right.
That's just not appropriate.
So that would take care of that part. Now we still need to look at the house, right? But now you're saying as far as the driveway goes, they can still have use of the driveway, can do like a
I was gonna say, the
flag?
property doesn't have to be down the middle of the driveway.
Right,
No.
You can arrange a shared driveway easement through an existing track. You would just, as part of the plat process, identify that area as a 20-foot wide access and utility easement that would be designated for use for the track that is on and the adjoining tracks, as long as it's not greater than 3 tracks, in which you have to bring it up to county roads.
Which would
And this is
negate the
tracks.
necessity for the variance to begin with.
it would shift your property line
would shift the
again,
property
but you
line.
can still use the driveway.
Yeah, you wouldn't be
Okay.
required to have a new one. You would
Okay.
just
So all we're
be
asking
required
is,
to
you
have
know, and not all the way back.
The driveway is an easement, but we that yellow line over 10, 20
Yeah.
feet.
Right.
You can move it to the other side so it doesn't straddle it, or you can decide, I don't want road frontage for the property at 1435, really, I'm just gonna make that bullet, you can kind of do whatever.
Basically, what we're trying to do is negate the need for a variance. Okay, so if you
Yeah.
shift that property line over out of the driveway, you get your easement for the driveway, that would take care of the house portion. The barn portion, I do think that hook's probably gonna have to come out of there and go straight up for that, but,
The only thing I would think of is as we shift that line, you may want to, I mean, she will want to be careful not to lose like under 10 acres on that
Yeah,
tract.
that is an important
So be
comment.
careful of that. I mean, if
Say
you're,
that again?
you're going down 11.66 acres, I would be careful not to drop under 10.
Right, yes,
For that
that's,
part, oh, that good.
Yes, so, but I mean, you could shift it over, like she said, with a property easement, a use of, on the 1435, but have your actual property line negate us having to do an adjustment.
Yeah.
Could you?
so the way we have it right now, we have to vote the way it is currently, okay, so the way it's written here. And then at least you can come back and at least can help you work through what we're talking about here, okay?
And then we
If that
wouldn't
makes
even
sense.
need an adjustment, you'd just be done.
would I need to apply for an easement?
No, you can just put it on the plat, so pretty much what you showed me.
She can help you out, do
I was
all,
gonna say, we're trying to make it easier.
because I did notice not only does she have a portion right there, but there's that big old ditch there too. If she wanted a new driveway, it would be major.
Oh, yeah, it would.
So,
And that once it's recorded, that would be a permanent thing, and if you did end up selling it to someone who isn't family, it would be, they have guaranteed one unless you came in and you agreed to dissolve it and move it. But you would essentially guarantee that spot, and everything like that.
but a new person could, if they bought the other side, could always put their own driveway in if they want.
Down the line, you sell it, both of them, and then two new people share it, it would permanently designate it until you guys did the same process of filing the plat to get rid of it. So it's a legally binding situation, yeah.
Believe it or not, with all this information, we're trying to make this easier for you, not harder.
It sounds scary.
Yeah, we're gonna say deny, but we're not saying you can't do that. It's just
Okay.
different wording of
Make
it.
it the shape you want, you just, yeah.
Our job is to reduce the amount of variances if they're not needed. So,
Fair enough.
any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, appreciate it.
Is the home, would that be the same situation right around that corner?
If there is, and forgive me, but if there is,
I can't remember exactly how many feet it is there.
if there is a way you can move the home away from the property line enough to reduce the amount of variance, that's what we suggest.
Are you speaking on the new home?
Yeah,
Are you talking about the old or the existing or the new? What are
new.
you talking
I
about?
was talking about
I
the
was
new.
talking about the old home.
Oh, I'm talking about the
Okay,
new.
well, when you shift that property line and you're no longer straddling the driveway, that should move you 50 foot off. She will make sure, show you how to do
And we'll look
that.
at it, and so if you have comments, we'll work through that plat process.
And for the house to come, what is the
Ah, that was me.
You'll need 50 foot
Yeah,
off
you'll
of where
need
the
50
line
foot
is.
up.
50 feet away from the property?
Right.
So we'll address.
Did we make that clear as mud?
I hope so.
All right, good.
We'll write a note about it, we'll work with you on the process of the plat division so that it's all good and dandy. And if we still identify that there is a requirement for it, we can.
So essentially, the, property line needs to be 50 feet away from the barn, and the home needs to be another 50 feet away from it.
So
Mhm.
it's 50 feet from everything. So if it's, the home is 30-some feet, it would be 50 feet. It wouldn't be an additional 50 feet to,
So the home and the barn need to be 50 feet apart.
No.
the new home and the barn technically would need to be 100 feet apart.
Each one 50 off.
Each 50 from the shared line. Sorry, it's very hard to not be like, sit down and be like, all right, drawing it out.
But I mean, something if that came up, or we would need to look an adjustment, or if you were going to compromise your 10 acres by shifting the that needs to be looked into. Then she could come back, then she could still come back. But,
All we're saying is for this one right here, there's probably other ways to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
makes sense? Sorry.
All right. Any other questions? In that case, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we deny application S 2022-25 for a variance of the side yard setback for both existing and existing primary and secondary residence at 1435 Indian Creek Road.
Motion made to deny by Sonia Barrett. Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Janet Holland seconds the motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. There are none. Motion carries.
And I put into the motion based on staff report.
Staff
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
so it sounds awful to say deny, but you should be okay, because you're gonna do something
Yeah.
different, okay?
Yeah, please work with Elise. She can help you through the process and, yeah. Yeah, we're really not that mean, I promise.
You'll be able to use your property.
Well, Janet is, but that's okay.
She's got her, she doesn't have a St. John name tag.
Yeah, I know.
So, good one. Next time, show us.
All right, moving on to application S 2022-26. Dennis Frommeyer, a variance to the side yard setback from 50 to 22 feet. Elise?
Yeah, as you said, it is a variance application again. This is at the property address 105 Pebble Beach Drive. It's in the Stonehenge
She's
community.
confused still.
It's okay, she can, go ahead.
It is a 1.192 acre property subdivided in the 70s and 60s, so pre-zoning times era. And staff recommends approval of this variance application. This is an aerial shot of the property, so Stonehenge, we do not have, at least in our office records right now, we don't have an active plat for it. It's aged, and the fact that it predates zoning standards means that it kind of just was put in this way, and then we now have to face, since we've implemented zoning standards, and it was qualified as a zone that has pretty large setback requirements, a lot of constructions would technically be created non-compliant, but they're grandfathered uses into the system, which pretty much means that like they're there, they're not offending anybody, but they don't technically follow the rules. But because they're there and they're not offending everybody, they just kind of got grandfathered into the system, and then in the future steps, if you wanted to do a home addition or something like that, you would be required to do this, and that's why we're here. So these are our statutes that we look at when we're discussing these things. This is the property yet again with the kind of place, kind of roughly like a square, this is where the structure would be placed. It is an undersized lot for the A1 district. A lot of properties that are created that predate zoning are undersized for the A1. We prevent any creation of anything that's undersized after that kind of point. Unfortunately, again, certain communities kind of got the zoning designation short straw and side short straw, to where now they are technically non-compliant, but they're, in every other essence of the way, they're a very functional home. The pond in the rear of the property just complicates some further placement in the rear, and also kind of makes again, that pinch point in that property, so it makes it a little bit more challenging to do construction on it. While it technically would impact the character of the general vicinity, a lot of structures have sheds. It's just there's a cutoff between when you need a building permit and when you can just drop a shed in the backyard. And the proposed size of the structure exceeds that, you just drop a shed down rule, and so we have to return for this. It would not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare, nor alter the character of the general vicinity. And these are my findings here. That updates and regulations make once compliant properties non-compliant, and we shouldn't really be punishing for instilling a regular. Yeah, we're just gonna let that sentence die because I just lose it halfway through. Approval of the variance does not adversely impact public health, safety, or welfare, nor alter the character of the general vicinity. And staff believes that it satisfies KRS 100.243. And as a result, staff recommends approval of the variance subject to the 3 conditions on the board that are typical ones for variance applications.
Any questions for Elise?
Pretty straightforward.
All right. Is the applicant, are you the applicant on this one?
Doesn't that have an HOA?
It kind of varies. Some more recent areas have HOAs.
We don't get
We do have an HOA,
Right.
I happen to be the president,
Okay.
but we really have no regulations. Before
Charlie,
I
we don't get
used
involved
to,
in
the
HOAs, do we?
neighborhood, They've done away with
No,
all the
this is
regulations
perfectly
they had at one time. And what I've been told by past board members is that they checked into making some regulations, but it would take 100% vote of everybody in the neighborhood, there's 100 houses in the neighborhood, to make any kind of new regulation. So we're basically a volunteer, it's $25 a year, to just basically keep the lights on at the entrances. We kind of keep the landscaping kept up at the entrances, that kind of stuff. Other than that, we don't hardly raise enough money to do anything.
I don't think we have too many questions on this, do we?
No, we don't have to get involved in HOAs.
Nah, we stay on
anyways.
HOAs. We've run from them. Yeah, we run from HOAs. Good luck to you. Yeah.
Live in
That's why I
Canewood.
live where I live.
Canwood, yeah.
Actually, by having it so informally, theirs has worked better through the years, because
I'd
we've had
say
some
so.
people who love mowing grass and carrying on,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
they've
we've
done
got
better
a big-
than probably all the others.
Mhm.
We've got a big green space,
Yeah.
and that used to be one of our biggest expense was that green space. And we'd have to have it mowed, bush hog,
Mhm.
a couple times a year, and then all of a sudden, the people that surround it started mowing back further and further and further. We've got just a very small area that doesn't get mowed.
Well, it's
Wow.
hard, don't.
Yeah, I'd use it. I'd really use it.
All right, if we have no questions, I don't see any reason to drag this out. I'll make a motion to approve S-2022-26, taking into account the staff recommendations. And I don't need a second.
Second.
Janet Holland seconds the motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. There are none. Motion carries.
I'll send you a letter tomorrow.
Pretty place up there.
Mhm.
After we did what we bought, we looked at some other places. We did not want HOA.
I didn't either.
All those places.
All right, next application, S-2022-27, Stephen and Elizabeth Reagan. Elise?
This is the property, this is for a property address, 103 Gillick Lane, and I will probably change up the pronunciation every time. Don't know how to say it sometimes, it's fine. So they're requesting a variance to the side yard setback from 50 feet to 25 feet, and the rear yard setback from 50 feet to 25 feet for the construction of an accessory structure. It is a 1 acre lot zone for agricultural use, so it is an undersized lot for the agricultural district. Staff recommends approval of the side yard setback request, but denial of the rear yard setback request. And I'll kind of get to that in 2 minutes max. This is an aerial shot of the property. This is in the Cassidy Heights neighborhood that was platted in 77. And is a subdivision of all undersized A1 lots, technically not within the city, even though it is north of that is the Amerson Farm Development. Across from it is more city land. It's just this area that's just holding out for some, they like it that way, I guess. So we just kind of let them eat. But that's why you guys get to hear from them, even though it seems really close to the city. Just kind of looking at the aerial shot here, there are a lot of pools, a lot of accessory structures and garages that are in the setbacks areas, and as well as sheds installed. So it is not an anomaly to have or request a structure like this. Again, like the other one, the size of the property triggered a building permitting review, which then brought them to us because it was violating the setback requirements and such. These are our standards. This is a shot of the property. The square is a little bit closer than the property line than it actually would be, but I just kind of wanted to illustrate that request. And I was getting sick of PowerPoint's nonsense, so I was like, it's going where it is, and I'll deal with it later. This wouldn't impact really the character of the general city, as I kind of stated. In observing the side yard setback would put that structure behind the existing residence and kind of shield it from view, but allow for access from the existing driveway for if they have personal vehicles that they're looking to put in that area, which I'm not entirely sure of, but they wanted to do something with the structure of that size, they would likely need some access to it. So it would put it behind it. The main discussion is, so we kind of come up to this discussion of like undue hardship in that sort of thing. It is in a smaller size lot, so it is kind of reasonable to request that thing, but undue hardship is kind of the point B of the three to determine whether or not like approving the variance or denying the variance would create undue hardship. There's examples of, again, of structures that are approved in the area that are in the setback requirements, and there are ones that are not. And so it's just whether or not the placement or again, the decision to approve or deny will create a hardship that is excess, or if it will be not creating a hardship. And so it doesn't really justify that. Staff is inclined to support the rear yard setback or the side yard setback request due to just kind of the placement and the ease of kind of creating a driveway to then go around the existing property and kind of have it line up as opposed to having to hook shot it back to then go to the property there. However, staff is not inclined to support the rear yard setback request because we really don't believe it's necessary for the use if they're using it for personal vehicles or if they're using it for storage. Having it that far back may just add additional cost to having to pave that site and adding more things to it. And while that's kind of like a personal sentiment statement, definitely that is important to understand that like that's a pretty far back area. A lot of people are it's just right in line with their existing structure or a little bit behind it. And that 25-foot area is not really required in order for you to successfully use that site. Like it's not a absolute necessity. The side yard is believed to be more of a need, at least by staff conclusion. However, the rear yard request is not as much.
Can I just put the minutes that the side is reasonable for access?
Yes,
and the rear
100%. I kept going and I was like, we need to
and the
stop.
rear
Like,
is
maybe
not
eye
because
contact.
there's ample
Septic system
alternatives.
do anything in these areas?
Shouldn't be, they're still running on
so.
city lines.
Yeah.
So these are our three things here. We have
Let's
at
get
least
back a
more
while
common
later.
in
Reason
the
they
Georgetown
get
board to
preference.
approve portions of applications but deny other portions, just for general kind of peace of mind, if you want to call it. In part, staff believes that it meets the finding requirements, but the whole entirety of the project isn't needed. It's kind of stated in the project, in the staff report, and it would allow for greater usability of the property, but that the rear yard isn't really necessary. So staff recommends denial of the rear yard setback and approval of the side yard setback request, subject to the three conditions of approval that I've listed up there.
They're not here to say why.
There's no applicant, so.
Any questions for Elise? All right. In that case, I'll entertain a motion on this one.
You didn't have any concerns from neighbors or anything?
I wish they were here to tell us why they
Mhm.
couldn't,
It
believe
says
they
something,
needed to be back.
I think it says on here that they just don't want it that
Yeah.
far. I mean, it's really just a personal preference, I think.
Yeah.
I'll be here to argue though.
Right.
So, like putting your driveway all the way back to the
It's
property
wasted
is also
space
like,
behind it,
well,
only
I
have
don't
an acre,
like
that's
that.
why.
Like,
That's what I'd say, it's wasted space behind it, I only have an acre. I'd be here arguing, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but if they're not, they're out of luck. All right, I'll entertain a motion on this one. Unless nobody wants to do that.
I'll make a motion that we approve application S 2022-27, that we approve the side yard setback variance from 50 to 25 feet, and that we deny the rear yard setback due to the reasons we've discussed,
Good to me.
And include the staff
including
recommendation.
staff recommendations for the one we're approving.
Ms. Barrett makes the motion. Rachel, did you second that? Rachel seconds that motion. Any questions or comments? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. There are none. Motion carries. Any other business that we need to go over?
I need to make a motion to approve resolution 2201.
Oh, yeah.
Care for me to read that?
Please do.
Charlie, would you read that, please?
It's a resolution related to Kim Stamper's service on the board. Whereas Kim Stamper appointed to the Scott County Board of Adjustment in 2016, elected chair in 2019, is rotating off the board for contributions to the board and our community necessitate commemoration of her service on the record. Throughout her tenure, Kim brought to the board a keen understanding of the community and an unfailing fairness. She appreciated the board's obligation to Scott County and its ultimate obligation of equal application of the law to every applicant. Kim's dedication to the needs of individual and community through the board's application of the law infused her work as board member and her leadership as chair. Her approach was never that the individual or regulator knows best. She sought and respected the strengths of each as she worked with her fellow members toward many difficult decisions. Now therefore be it resolved by the Scott County Board of Adjustment. The board and our community are indebted to Kim Stamper for her service and leadership. The board thanks Kim, states unequivocally on the record her contributions will be missed. The board wishes Kim the best in her future endeavors and hopes future members bring as much to the board's work as she has. The board approved the foregoing resolution by unanimous vote upon motion by Barrett, second by Holland. The board's regular meeting June 2nd, 2022.
Good.
Did I get that right?
You
lady?
did good. Good job.
Do we all need to say aye or anything?
What?
Oh, all in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed by the same. There are none. Resolution carries. Any other new business? Oh, looky there.
It's not really new business per se. I put these all out of order, so I had to go back and forth. But we have training requirements, y'all. We gotta get these in. Sonia and Janet came and hang out with me, last week. It was great. We watched some cool stuff. I don't know if I have those available. We'll work on that one. But these are our requirements. In the first year of term service, we need to have 4 hours and then 8 hours in each, for each 2-year period served. So, I put in what term you are in, what is the half term that you're within, and then what that window looks like, how many hours you've logged in that window, and then how many hours are remaining. So, that gets some hours in all.
Yeah.
Jen and Sonia have been showing up for things, but also they have the luxuries of being free people
Yep.
with benefits and not having to go labor under the ban. But unfortunately, we do have these explicit requirements that we need to satisfy for, again, for state statutes, and given some recent situations and everything like that, we really think that it's important that we're exceeding or at least meeting compliance regulations as set by the state. We're kind of light about it sometimes, but we really need to.
Is this your nice way of telling us get the training in?
Yeah.
All right, got it.
You
I
got
mean,
it.
if you find like webinars or like, there's a list of things. You find stuff on housing, EDUs, transportation, and we might do a board
Do you want to do
activity
officers?
thing or something like that. But we're gonna try to
Would
do
you-
some things.
you
Unfortunately,
well,
we're during normal business hours, so it makes
You
it
bring it up.
hard.
Well, supply us with information of
Yeah.
those of us who
Yeah,
can
we're
show
gonna
up. I want
try
to
our
be there.
best to get some Zoom things up again. I know how much everyone really loves doing Zoom meetings, but we're gonna try to get some things up and running so that we can get some hour training opportunities in.
I can attend some as long as I know in advance.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
I can
I
look
can
my
maybe
schedule.
give you the benefit of that one. I'm
Yeah.
like, you are brand spanking new, first day in, and we're like, all right, here's these resolutions, here's these things you gotta do.
This is her nice way of coming after me for 8 hours worth of training. It's fine. I get it. I understand.
I know how many hours you've done,
Well,
so like.
I know how many times I've been here too.
We also, now that we have a full board, we do want to do formal chair and vice chair elections. And that type of thing, so I'll kind of leave that kind of up for you guys in your discussion.
I guess
There's
you
also
beat us
just
to it.
been general sentiment across some of our boards, just on concerns about the datedness of some of our bylaws and some rules about that one. So if you guys want, we can consider opening that up and meeting some of that. But
We can do election of officers tonight, can we?
Can we go and do that tonight, election of officers?
You can do it, or we can go home and have supper
No, let's,
and do it next month.
No.
fine. I
Let's-
don't care either way.
let's go on and get it out of the way. So what we gotta do, nominate?
Well, we can go through an entire nomination process, or what we generally do is someone nominates someone quickly moves nomination cease, that gets a majority, if not unanimous vote, and then we go on and do vice chair, do the same thing.
Darren needs to be chair.
Is that a motion?
Yep.
Well, that was quick.
Well, you're sitting there and you're doing it. You're going to be here though, right?
I'm here all the time.
Well, this-
Well, I didn't hear a word that came out of Barrett's mouth. So what was
I'll
it?
make a motion that
You know, that's
Darren
an
Zillow
unusual situation.
gets
I'll make a motion. She sits on the other side of you.
So, now, did you nominate?
I love you
Did
too.
you nominate that guy sitting next
I
to you?
did.
All right.
To be chair. Did you hear that?
I did.
He's mean to me.
I did.
So do we have a motion to nomination cease?
Yes.
Or do we have a second for that motion?
Second.
Who, Rachel?
Yep.
Who asked you at the end down there anyway?
All in favor?
Aye.
And then same thing for vice chair.
I'll nominate Sonia Barrett for vice chair. I hope that's okay with her.
If, as long as I don't have to do this at all this time.
I'll second that motion, Charlie.
Well, now we need a motion to nomination cease.
I'll make a motion, nomination cease.
Second.
There you go. There's the second from the end. Rachel makes the second. There's your officers.
And we got to vote on this one?
Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same? There are none, motion's carry.
All right, so you're both screwed,
Yeah, pretty much.
officially.
Congratulations.
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
No, Darren, I was just keeping you up, because tomorrow we make the move to put my.